What's going on, guys? We have made it to the GWA Championship. This week we are taking on Dino. How did we let this coach draft this team? We have Chen Pao, Iron Treads, Hatterene, Annihilate, just to name a few of the threats that my opponent has. So I'm predicting something along the lines of Chen Pao, Iron Treads, Hatterene, Annihilate, Salazzle, and Rotom. Those six against me, I have very minimal switches. Rotom is so good just because my only immunity, my only ground type is Sandaconda, and it does not resist grass in any way, shape, or form. So I definitely see a combination of these six coming. Unfortunately, my opponent has such a stacked team that he can really afford to bring whatever he wants. Without further ado, we're going to try and get into what I am bringing, and we'll see if we can find a way to take on this Chen Pao in any way, shape, or form, because it just annihilates the majority of my team. But we are going to start off with Hydrake, the Dragonite. If I roll with a max HP set, it doesn't really die to anything outright from the Chen Pao, but it doesn't do a whole lot back. So this week we're running an offensive Hydrake. We are going to run Terra Normal with heavy duty boots, and I'm going to try to set up and sweep. I debated a subset for a little while. I went back and forth a lot on this team, and it may or may not come back to bite me in the butt, but that's what we're going to roll with Dragonite. For Greninja, again, this is one of these weeks where I don't like my matchup. So we're going to roll with the Greninja, and we're going to slap a Scarf on it to see if we can trick one of the bulkier mons like Toxapex or Hatterene, and see if we can stick it with a Choice Scarf and go from there. I am going to run Extra Sensory just for the Toxapex if it does come. Hopefully we can flinch it and do something cool with that. I've dedicated a lot of this team to try and have checks to Chen. So we are going to bring Rotom, and Rotom is going to be heavy duty boots, but it's also going to have a weird kind of move set this week. We're going to run Overheat, Volt Switch, Will-O-Wisp, and Reflect. With a Reflect up, we really take on Chen Pao a little bit better. Annihilate is still a bit of an issue. The only issue is if I click Overheat against this team, Chen Pao can kind of come in and either set up or just do a lot of damage, and I really can't do a whole lot about that. So I have to be really careful with how I play Overheat. But this team this week is wild. It's really, really nasty. I'm going to have to play well in order to have a chance at it. I am going to rock just standard Sylveon this week. It's going to be our normal leftovers, Wish Protect, Baton Pass. Yes, thank you, Brain. So that'll be the set that we roll with for this week. Hopefully we can keep things alive with the Sylveon. It's going to need to do a lot, especially if we do see Iron Treads coming in, because Iron Treads is not a friend of Sylveon. Fortress is going to be somewhat standard as well, except I'm going to be rocking heavy duty boots instead of leftovers so that I can always come in even if hazards are up and maintain my sturdy. This is another pseudo check to Chen Pao. I am going to run, I believe it's Iron Head on this just to be able to do some damage. It's going to be Stealth Rock, Spike, Volt Switch, and then Iron Head. No, excuse me, it's Rapid Spin over Volt Switch, because we have to be able to get hazards off the field if hazards show up. And then I believe last but not least, we're going to be rolling with Ditto. Ditto with a Choice Scarf can hopefully take advantage of Chen Pao being in. Ideally, I get up hazards and I'm good to go from the jump. If I can get hazards up and it's not heavy duty boots, that makes life so much easier for my team. He does have a couple of removal options in Tatsugiri. I think Talonflame still gets Roost, and Cyclizar gets Rapid Spin. So hopefully we can get Ditto in and use his own really, really good roster against him. It could be problematic if we see a lot of the bulkier mons, or if Hatterene comes and it's Calm Mind. But this is what I'm rocking with this week. We'll see. To be honest with you, I am not super confident in it, but this is what I have developed, so we'll go from there. And we are good to go. This is the championship match of the GWA. I thought I got a pretty good lead off here. It's going to be Rotom into Cyclizar. If it's an offensive Cyclizar, it's going to be an issue for me. So I don't want to stick around for too long. I don't want to give him the opportunity to either Draco and then swap out, or U-turn and get some momentum on me. So I go straight out into Sylveon. He goes straight for the taunt, and then he's able to U-turn out. And already we are kind of in an issue where he can put us in a spin cycle if he wants to. So Talonflame comes on out. Talonflame is going to be kind of problematic if it's the defensive set. Yeah, looking at the team, looking at what he brought, it was not any way, shape, or form what I prepared for, and I think that kind of threw me from the jump. I did feel good about it, though, because Cyclozar and Talonflame over Salazzle and Rotom-Mow, I was cool with. I was all right with that, because I figured Iron Treads would be the spinner, and that everything else would kind of fall in place from there. But yeah, I'm essentially able to get my reflect off, and at that point, I'm feeling kind of good. Um, I'm cool to keep bouncing back and forth between Sylveon so that a Draco doesn't melt my face off. Taunts keep getting thrown out, which again, I'm all right with. I can throw off damage. If he wants to bring in something like Iron Treads or Talonflame, I will take the damage. I'll eventually try to call this taunt or this U-turn, but right now I don't feel like I'm in a position where I have to. So we do see the Riptire, which is going to be Iron Treads, come on out, and in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, cool, this is fine. This is an opportunity for me to go out straight into my fortress and to potentially either spin away these rocks if he wants to get up rocks, or if he wants to click for damage, I'm going to eat whatever he wants to throw off. So I'm cool to get my own hazards up at this point, because if Chen Pao is not boots, which looking at all the removal options he brought, it's looking like it's not, then I really want my hazards up so that Chen Pao takes so much damage. Because in my mind, what I'm thinking is if I can remove Chen Pao, this game is mine. That's at least the mindset that I'm going into this front half of the battle. But my opponent is playing super, super well. Dino, if you were watching this, dude, this was such a match. Annihilate does come out here, and in my mind, when Dino's used Annihilate against me before, it's been the bulk up set. So I am immediately thinking, all right, you are probably something like bulk up, Rage Fist, Drain Punch, Rest with Chesto Berry. And that's kind of what I'm going off of. But as we see throughout the match, this is not the case. My opponent throughout this match just does a really good job of putting me on the back foot, keeping me guessing, putting me in the spin cycle, and once I'm in that spin cycle, it is rough. It's hard to get out of. My opponent has such a good offensive team that he can just start smacking me. He can start smacking this team around, and I honestly, once I got put on the back foot later on in this match, it was really hard for me. I mean, I don't get tilted very easily, but this is definitely a match that later on, I just felt myself getting so tilted. I would make what I thought was a great read, and my opponent would make a better one, and it was wild. This is probably the most off I've ever felt in a game, and to be honest with you, I feel kind of like Kirk Cousins when it comes to championship matches or playoff games. I just feel like the moment gets too big, or maybe I change my prep, or I just play differently. But my opponent did such a really nice job throughout this match, keeping me off balance, bringing stuff that I didn't really predict. We will find out later that this Toxapex is actually Assault Vest. It is an Assault Vest Toxapex, which who brings that? This guy. And it works. It works really, really well. So my opponent just did a really solid job of putting me on the back foot, really keeping me guessing. And I got to a point where I'd make a good play and I'd say, no, this play is not, this is not a good idea. And it would be the right play. And in hindsight, I'd be like, I should have trusted my gut. I should have just clicked this move right here. I should have done this. I should have done that. And it was too little too late. But back to the moment at hand, Fortress is in. We are able to spin away the rocks. I'm thinking that this thing is kind of the standard set like usual. Did you see how much Surf was doing to this thing? I never got his set afterwards, but I'm assuming that this is probably max special attack with just a little bit in Spadef and then probably the rest in HP so that it could take hits and maximize that Assault Vest. But it is killing me. Like, my Fortress took a butt ton from that Surf. Now, granted, I'm not any investment in Spadef on Fortress, and Fortress's Spadef isn't all that great, but like, Sheesh. I did not think Surf would be a 3-hit KO. Talonflame is out. We are just going to wish back up. I have to try and get some offensive pressure going. At this point, I was really wishing that I was sub Dragonite, sub Roost, Dragon Dance, and then one move, or even just sub and then 3 attacks with leftovers, because we could keep hazards off the field with Fortress, but not the way that I'm playing. Not the way that I'm playing. I really, looking back, I know my opponent played really, really well, but I also think that I could have played better, and I wish that in hindsight I had trusted my gut a little bit more. But my opponent just plays lights out in this match. He keeps me on the back foot. He keeps me in the spin cycle, and it was rough because the first half, I really thought that I had a decent shot at taking this thing home. But as you'll see in a few minutes, my opponent takes back all of the momentum and really just starts running away with it. My usual thing when I am battling is I don't like to do live comms. I've done a live comm like once or twice, and I just feel like I play so much worse because I won't be in my zone. So I usually play like classical music. And at this point, I'm thinking, shoot, okay, we can potentially kill this thing with an overheat. But if it subs here, then we have an issue. So if I click overheat and he clicks sub and it either hits and I go -2, or if I miss, that's probably game. Because if he gets a Swords Dance up or if he gets a sub up, then I have to essentially sack him on. And look how much this thing does, a butt ton. So I click Volt Switch just because I know in my mind that Dragonite can come out. And Dragonite can come out and click E-Speed. And my opponent's not going to swap to Annihilate. He's definitely not going to do that. So actually, yeah, my opponent does just do that. And in my mind, I'm thinking, well, why did you do that now? Chin-Pao is essentially dead. But he has removal options. So in hindsight, if I just click EQ there, if I'm a baller and I make a baller read, because I know Dragonite can live any one attack. I've got multi-scale. If I click EQ or Iron Head there, I get free damage off. And then Annihilate is at least weakened. But again, I'm still thinking that this is the bulk up Rage Fist set, and I don't want to give Annihilate a whole bunch. And I didn't really think my opponent would swap out here. So this is a gotcha moment. It's going to be one of many that my opponent really calls me on. And here, my opponent makes a really great play. And instead of straight up attacking, they go straight for the poison jab. And in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, this is like 3 plays in a row now where he's gotten me. And he gets the poison, which, you know what? You make a great read like that, you deserve the poison. I'm not even mad. Because if you're going to poison jab my normal Dragonite, you deserve to get a poison. And I deserve that. So I'm not even mad about that because that was a great read. Dino, great read. But again, I'm kind of getting put on the back foot here, and I don't have the balls to make a 50-50 play and pull a double. I play way too passive in this game, and my opponent made me pay for it. And guys, if you're watching this and you're playing in any match, any way, shape, or form, especially if it's a playoff match, you have to click attacking moves to win. You have to knock out your opponent's Pokemon to win. So yeah, balance is fine. Playing passive at times is fine. But if you can't do damage to the opponent, and if your opponent can do damage to you, that's a pretty good recipe for losing. So hindsight is always 2020, and not to take anything away from my opponent, because I cannot say enough how well my opponent just offensively bullies me this match. But in hindsight, I wish I had a little more firepower instead of relying on everything to die to hazards or to get chipped down or to be able to set up, because all of these things are hypotheticals. And again, this team that I drafted for this season was meant to be fun. It wasn't really meant to make a deep playoff push, because I think my best physical attacker was like Slitherwing and Dragonite. But if you're going to play, you should play to win. And if you're going to draft, you should draft to win. And my opponent, look at that team, man. This team deserves to win because of how offensive it is and how well he's played it this season. So I am able to copy him here. And this is when I realized he's got rapid spin on this. And I think I took almost a full timer because I was like, well, shoot, he's just going to rapid spin here and he's going to get rid of all my hazards. And now Chen Pao is just going to wreck my life. And that's exactly what he does. So again, I cannot be mad. My opponent is making the right plays and I'm kind of powerless to do anything at this point. So at this moment in time, all the wind is out of my sails and I'm thinking, okay, my Sylveon is poisoned. My Fortress is at death's door. I don't have a lot of options here. So I go out to Dragonite, and I think, I know, he has to keep this Cyclizar alive, because without this Cyclizar, he's losing a Regenerator Mon. So I'll be a bold boy, and I'll click Dragon Dance. And he taunts me. What a baller. Like, what a really good play. And then Talonflame comes out. I don't want to risk a burn, because if I get burned, it's essentially over. So I just decide, you know what, we'll see what this set is anyway. See if you're defensive. And if I remember correctly, it is Roost, U-Turn, Brave Bird, and Willow. There was one more move. So whenever I use Ditto, I take like a little screenshot of it mid-match with my phone so that I can go back and be like, okay, wait, this was a set. So that I don't have to play the guessing game. But if I remember correctly, it didn't have a straight-up fire move. So I think it was probably Will-O-Wisp. And I think we might have seen Will-O-Wisp earlier in the match. Anyway, I go out to this, and here I'm on the back foot, and I think to myself, okay, I'm going to click Extra Sensory. Maybe I'll get a flinch. And I said, no, I got to keep up momentum. If I had clicked Extra Sensory here, we had a chance to do some serious damage to Annihilate. But I don't do that. I click this move instead. And I'm thinking to myself, why? Why are you doing this? Why are you the way that you are? And the answer is, I don't know. But my opponent is making me pay, and he's got close combat. So I'm like, okay, he's probably going to click U-turn here or Drain Punch. I can live 2 of either of those. No, I can't. So he just gets a free close combat off on me, and now my multi-scale is just popped. Sad. Feels bad, man. Feels real bad. So I go out to Ditto, because I know if he goes close combat, I can at least be immune to it, because I'll copy the Annihilate, and then I'll see what his set is. So at this point, I realize he doesn't even have Rage Fist. And I realized earlier it was Scarf. But at this point, I'm like, man, he has played me. And not only has he played me, he's pro-played me. I'm in a bad spot. So I throw off a close combat here because obviously that's the right play. And look at that damage. That is so much damage on this Pokemon that can swap out and just get it all back. I mean, I can't even be mad, because my opponent, if I was in my opponent's shoes, I would be making I probably wouldn't even be making all the plays that he's playing, because he's just playing so well. It's just, he put me in the blender. And that's really all I can say. At this point, I'm kind of like clawing for any type of momentum I can get. So I'm trying to make plays that don't cost me a whole lot, but at the same time, if I do get them wrong, it puts me in a position where I can get something in and get damage off. But at this point, Toxapex, even though it is tricked, Toxapex can essentially wall the majority of my team, and Cyclizar plus Annihilate force Dragonite to do something different than what they're doing. And it's just not, it's not a very good position. I have to keep Dragonite alive in order to beat Chen Pao. And if Greninja goes down, then I lose my speed, and essentially everything else on the team outspeeds me. So yeah, we're just in a really bad spot. My opponent puts back up his rocks, and that was a phenomenal play. For those of you watching, this is like a clinic on how to clinch up a match, like how to make sure that your opponent being me, really just gets put in the blender. And then, it doesn't have to be death by 1 or 2 punches. It can be death by 1,000 cuts. This is, I don't even know if it's not a stall. And I hate when people are like, well, you just stall me. It's not a stall. This is what I'm playing is really well played out balance. And I love that. And my opponent just played a really good match. So yeah, we're just going to kind of get put in a blender here, and it's not going to be the most fun. I am able to call and get a wish off, but because I am poisoned, it's not going to do a whole lot. And this Iron Treads being in front of me, I mean, there's not a whole lot I can do. And that's okay, because at this point, I kind of know that it's over. I just really don't want to get 6-0'd in a championship match because, we went 7-1, and we had one of the best records as far as differential went in the entire league. And at least for my morale, I don't want to be 6-0'd. So if I can get a couple of kills, I'll be happy. But the way that it's looking right now is not looking like that's going to be super feasible. But yeah, this Toxapex is going to come back out. And even though it's scarfed, it's still annoying. I am able to baton pass out. I'll pass this wish to Dragonite and try to... I kind of wanted to Dragon Dance, but I don't think this late in the game Dragon Dance will do that much for me, because I do know that this monkey is scarfed, and without my multi-scale, I'm not able to take two close combats. So I have to go for damage, and I do get poisoned. Again, this poison is not going to make or break the game. At this point, this game is essentially over. It is a 30% chance to poison. I can't be mad. My opponent is playing a phenomenal game, and this is just going to speed up the end game a little bit faster. So I am... I don't know why I clicked E-Speed there. I don't know what I was predicting. I think maybe in my mind, I thought he'd go Talonflame, and I didn't want to give him a free Talonflame switch. So I knew I was poisoned, and E-Speed would do a lot. So I just decided I'd go for E-Speed instead. I think that was the thought process. But of course, my opponent calls it, is able to make a great play. But I do sack my Sylveon, and now I can get a free swap in. So things are looking much better. Not really. So my opponent does go for U-turn. At this point, I have maybe 2 turns left with poison, because this poison is going to rack up. And yeah, this is going to be just about it. I am able to Dragon Dance up. I really, really wanted to go for an E-Speed, but I was really afraid that my opponent would just go right back out to Annihilate and make me pay for that. So I go for Iron Head, and instead of killing, my opponent goes for a U-turn, and all that HP is back now. Double Regenerator is really, really cool, and especially on mons that can pivot or mons that have safe outs, Double Regenerator is almost broken. Not to take anything away from my opponent, because obviously my opponent has played super, super well. But when you have those outlets, when you have those utilities, use them. Use them. If it's part of the game and the game allows it and the league allows it, then do it. Definitely go for it. I did go for extra sensory there, hoping for a flinch. We don't get a flinch. And at this point, Toxapex is going to be the bane of my existence. Here, I think that I play this just a little bit poorly. Not in terms of winning the game, but just in terms of how best to finish up this match and potentially get a couple kills. Because here, my opponent is just going to swap out. I think I click Surf. I click Sludge Bomb. And I am able to get a kill, which is good. So no 6-0, which is, at least for me, a huge moral win. It's sad. It's sad, man, that the season is going to come to an end like this. But my opponent played super, super well. This team was a beast. Anytime you can get Chien-Pao and Annihilate on the same team, along with like super thick beefy mons with Regenerator, that's a recipe for success. I did think that my opponent was just going to double EQ there, but he's smarter than that. He doesn't want to potentially let me get something in that can EQ, because EQ with a Scarf, if that Chien-Pao is not scarfed and it doesn't have Ice Shard, then there's a chance that Ditto could bring it all the way back. I don't think that's the case. So Ditto is going to come in here. We are going to swap attacks back and forth, and we are going to try to get one more KO. Surf, and I think Acid Spray was my opponent's move. Bring me down with like 7 HP, and then we are able to finish up the match like that. But I really can't say enough good things about my opponent. He drafted a really good team. He played a really good season. Unfortunately, this is the way that our season ends, and I don't know what it is. But when it comes to championship matches, I can't clutch up. So I need to take a step back, and I need to figure out why that is. And for the next season that we bring, and if you can hear my dog's squeaky toy, she just decided she'd come in while I was editing. So sorry about that. But if I'm going to continue playing, championships are kind of where it's at. A good regular season is nice, but playoffs and championships are really where they matter. And I want to have more than just one. So we'll figure it out. GG's to my opponent. My opponent played a phenomenal match. Skunked me. Really kind of skunked me. So I can't be too mad about it. But yeah, moving forward, for those of you that are fans of the channel, for people that have taken the time to watch these matches, watch the season, I'm going to figure some stuff out. I know I draft a lot of stuff for fun, and winning is fun. Playing is fun, but winning is way more fun because nobody likes to lose. And if you like to lose, then that's a you thing. But yeah, that's going to be a good game to my opponent. Really can't give him enough props. Well played. Great season. So we'll see how it is. I don't know how poised my other draft league team is to take a deep shot at playoffs, but we'll do our best. But I'm going to try my best to get back at winning. And yeah, that's going to be a wrap for this pre-home season. We have another post-home season going on right now, and then Lumina Champions League will be back at some point as well. So thank you guys so much for watching. Dino, fantastic game, dude. GG. Congrats on the championship. You deserve it. And that's going to be it for me. You guys have a great rest of your day. Take care.